Hare Krishna devotees, welcome to our session. So today, instead of Shloka a day, we'll be understanding the position of Lord Balaram in relation to Lord Krishna. And we will also look at a few of the pastimes. So we're going to go into two texts. One is Srimad Bhagavatam, and the other one is Chaitanya Charitamrita. So in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the very first chapter, which is titled The Advent of Lord Krishna, the pastime goes as follows, where Mother Earth is feeling very disturbed. She wants some intervention, and she approaches Lord Brahma for help, along with all of the demigods. So at that time, the demigods, along with Lord Brahma, go to the shores of the milk ocean to offer prayers. And after they have offered all these prayers, they do not hear a response. There's only silence. The Lord has not spoken. But there is indication here that the Lord reveals what is about to happen into the mind of Lord Brahma. So in the 21st shloka of the 10th canto, first chapter, this verse says, while in trance, Lord Brahma heard the words of Lord Vishnu vibrating in the sky. Thus he told the demigods, O demigods, hear from me the order of Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, the Supreme Person, and execute it attentively without delay. Sometimes we pray and pray and pray and we don't get a response, an immediate response from the Lord. Yeah, one has to be patient. So here as well, after the demigods have recited the Purusha Sukta, after a while only they hear the Lord's response, and that too it is Lord Brahma who hears it. And he is now going to relay the instructions that he has received to the demigods as to what is it that the Lord wants them to do. So Lord Brahma informed the demigods, before we submitted our petition to the Lord, he was already aware of the distress on earth. The Lord knows everything. Nobody can hide anything from him. So even before you have offered your prayer, the Lord already knows that you're in distress. So that's what Lord Brahma is telling the demigods. Consequently, for as long as the Lord moves on earth to diminish its burden by his own potency in the form of time, all of you demigods should appear through plenary portions as sons and grandsons in the family of the Yadus. The instruction given to the demigods was that they should all take birth in the family of Yadus as sons and grandsons. And then Brahmaji tells them, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who has full potency, will personally appear as the son of Vasudeva. Therefore, all the wives of the demigods should also appear in order to satisfy him. So not only was there an instruction for the demigods, there was also an instructions for the wives of the demigods to come and assist in the Lord's pastimes here. All of them had a role to play, and this was their primary instruction. That means even before the Lord appears, everybody else has to appear. Which leads us to the shloka that talks about Lord Balaram. So this is the 24th shloka. Vasudeva kalananta sahasravadana swarat agrato bhavita devo hare priya chikirshaya. So now is the introduction of Lord Balaram. So the translation for the shloka is, the foremost manifestation of Krishna is Sankarshana, who is known as Ananta. He is the origin of all incarnations within this material world. All the Vishnu incarnations originate from Sankarshana. Previous to the appearance of Lord Krishna, this original Sankarshana will appear as Baladeva. Just to please the Supreme Lord Krishna in his transcendental pastimes. So immediately there is an identification of who is Sankarshana and how this Sankarshana is going to appear as Baladeva. And what is Baladeva's role going to be? Just to please the Supreme Lord. Assist him in his transcendental pastimes. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, Sri Baladeva is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. He is equal in supremacy to the Supreme Godhead. Yet, wherever Krishna appears, Sri Baladeva appears as his brother, sometimes elder and sometimes younger. When Krishna appears, all his plenary expansions and other incarnations appear with him. This is elaborately explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita. This time, Baladeva would appear before Krishna as Krishna's elder brother. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanmitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpadarupyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamin iti namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschyat Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam pangam nanghayate giram yat kripatamam vande Shri Gurum Vinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna devotees. So today we're going to talk about the position of Lord Balaram. So as you noticed in this particular purport, Prabhupada does not explain the position of Balaram here in Srimad Bhagavatam. He simply states that there is an elaborate explanation in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So this elaborate explanation of the position of Lord Balaram in Chaitanya Charitamrita is explained by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in the Adi Leela, chapter 5. So the Adi Leela are the early childhood pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is none other than Lord Krishna himself, who has come in the mood of Srimati Radharani. So I was just going through chapter 5 and the shlokas in which Prabhupada has described who is Lord Balaram elaborately. So without wasting time, let's go into chapter 5. We will look at the summary of chapter 5, and then we're going to go into 5 or 6 shlokas. And the shlokas are in Bengali. So let's look at Prabhupada's summarization of this entire chapter based on what Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami writes about who is Nityananda Ram, that he is none other than Lord Balaram. But what is the sequencing of these incarnations? What is the mood of Lord Krishna and the mood of Lord Balaram, Nityananda Ram, is actually explained here. So this chapter 5, Kaviraj Goswami titles it as the glories of Lord Nityananda Balarama. And Prabhupada gives a summary. This chapter is chiefly devoted to describing the essential nature and glories of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. Lord Sri Krishna is the absolute personality of Godhead, and his first expansion in a form for pastimes is Sri Balaram. So here Prabhupada is explaining that the Lord expands himself unendingly. And that his very first expansion, that Lord Krishna expands for the first time and becomes Lord Balaram. So in that sense, there is no difference between Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram, save a few, or rather 2 primary differences, which we will talk about in a little while. So now Srila Prabhupada is going to explain the locations of the various dhams and where Lord Balaram actually resides and what his role is. Beyond the limitation of this material world is the spiritual sky, Paravyoma. So anytime you come across this word Paravyoma, you can understand that this is the spiritual world, which has many spiritual planets, the supreme of which is called Krishna Loka. Krishna Loka, the abode of Krishna, has 3 divisions, which means Golok Vrindavan is divided into 3, which are known as Dwaraka, Mathura, and Gokula. So you may be wondering, how come they have the same names that are there on this Bhumi? Actually, when Lord Krishna appeared, the dham itself from the spiritual world comes here, because the dham itself is Lord Balaram. Lord Balaram expands as Vrindavan Dham. So in the spiritual world, the Krishna Loka planet has 3 sections, Dwaraka, Mathura, and Gokula. In that abode, the personality of Godhead expands himself into 4 plenary portions, which means in the spiritual world itself, the Lord expands into 4. Krishna, Balarama, Pradyumna. Pradyumna is the transcendental Cupid, and Aniruddha. You would have also heard this is Vasudev, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. So the Lord expands himself into Balaram, and then from that comes the Chatur Vyuha, They are called the Chaturvyuha. They are known as the original quadruple forms. In Krishna Loka is a transcendental place known as Shvetadvipa or Vrindavana. So Vrindavan in the spiritual world has another name. It's called Shvetadvipa. Below Krishna Loka, in the spiritual sky, are the Vaikunta planets, which means the Krishna Loka planet is separate. And all the Vaikunta planets, it's not just one planet. There are trillions and trillions and trillions of Vaikunta planets. On each Vaikunta planet, a four-handed Narayana expanded from the first quadruple manifestation is present. That means Lord Krishna expands as Balaram. Balaram then expands into Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. So from Krishna to Balaram, from Balaram to the Chaturvyuha. This first Sankarshana is called Mahasankarshana. From this Mahasankarshana, another quadruple form comes. And it is from that Moola Sankarshana that the Narayana comes. So actually from the Mahasankarshan, Narayana emanates, and from there, the Moola Sankarshan, the three Vishnu avatars come. So Prabhupada is explaining the personality of Godhead known as Sri Balarama in Krishna Loka is the original Sankarshana. The word Sankarshana means attractive, attracting deity. And from this Sankarshana expands another Sankarshana called Mahasankarshana, who resides in one of the Vaikunta planets. So the Moola Sankarshana is in the spiritual world, Krishna Loka. Mahasankarshana is in the Vaikunta planets. By his internal potency, Mahasankarshana maintains the transcendental existence of all the planets in the spiritual sky, where all the living beings are eternally liberated souls. So what is the role of this Mahasankarshana? To maintain the spiritual world. Just like Mahavishnu maintains all of the material world. So Mahasankarshana is performing that same service, but in the spiritual world. The influence of the material energy is conspicuous there by its absence. The only difference is, in the material world, there is material nature, Maya Devi. In the spiritual world, Maya Devi does not exist. She is absent there. On those planets, the second quadruple manifestation is present. Outside of the Vaikunta planets is the impersonal manifestation of Krishna, which is known as Brahmaloka. On the other side of Brahmaloka is the spiritual Karana Samudra or causal ocean. The material energy exists on the other side of the causal ocean without touching it. In the causal ocean is Mahavishnu, the original Purusha expansion from Sankarshana. Mahavishnu places his glance over the material energy, and by a reflection of his transcendental body, he amalgamates himself within the material elements. So there is a separation between Mahavishnu and Prakriti. What divides them is this Karana Samudra. So Mahavishnu does not come in contact with Prakriti at all, except through his glance. And that too, Prabhupada is writing here, Mahavishnu places his glance over the material energy, and by a reflection of his transcendental body, which means it's not his transcendental body, it's a reflection of his transcendental body, he amalgamates himself within the material elements. So, from the Chaturvyuha expansion, you have Narayana. And then from this Narayana, one more Sankarshana emanates. And it's from this Sankarshana, you have Mahavishnu. And that Mahavishnu further expands into Garbhodakshayi Vishnu and Kshirodakshayi Vishnu. So the sequencing of how the Lord expands himself is mentioned here. So we'll skip some paragraphs to get to the actual shlokas. Mahavishnu again enters every universe as the reservoir of all living entities. Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. From Garbhodakashayi Vishnu expands Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, the super soul of every living entity. So you can say that Garbhodakashayi Vishnu is the super soul of every universe, and Kshirodakashayi Vishnu is the super soul of every Jivatma in every universe. Garbhodakashayi Vishnu also has his own Vaikuntha planet in every universe, where he lives as a super soul or supreme controller of the universe. If you read that carefully again, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu also has his own Vaikuntha planet in every universe. So in the material universe, there is a Vaikuntha planet where the Lord has to reside. Garbhodakashayi Vishnu reclines in the midst of the watery portion of the universe and generates the first living creature of the universe, Brahma. The imaginary universal form is a partial manifestation of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. So the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita talks about the Virat Rup form of the Lord. That Virat Rup form of the Lord is an imaginary universal form. It's just a partial manifestation of which Vishnu? Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. So on the Vaikuntha planet, in every universe, is an ocean of milk. And within that ocean is an island called Shvetadvipa, where Lord Vishnu lives. So Shvetadvipa is there in Krishna Loka, Shvetadvipa is there in the Vaikuntha planets. Shvetadvipa is there where the Vishnus also reside within the material universe. Therefore, this chapter describes two Shvetadvipas, one in the abode of Krishna and the other in the ocean of milk in every universe. The Shvetadvipa in the abode of Krishna is identical with Vrindavan Dham, which is the place where Krishna appears himself to display his loving pastimes. In the Shvetadvipa, within every universe is a Shesha form of Godhead, who serves Vishnu by assuming the form of his umbrella, slippers, couch, pillows, garments, residence, sacred thread, throne, and so on. So this is the role Lord Balarama is playing for Mahavishnu. He becomes his bed. He becomes his umbrella, his slipper, his couch, his pillows. He becomes the Dham itself. So it is Lord Krishna who expands into Lord Balaram. And Lord Balaram, in the form of Sankarshana, expands into all of these, including covering Krishna in his garments. Lord Baladev in Krishna Loka is Nityananda Prabhu. Therefore, Nityananda Prabhu is the original Sankarshana. And Mahasankarshana and his expansions as the Purushas in the universes are plenary expansions of Nityananda Prabhu. That means all the Vishnus are originating from Lord Balaram. All the Purusha avatars are coming from Lord Balaram. So we'll come to the actual shlokas so that we can read the shloka. We'll do it from shloka number 4. Yeah? Begins with Sarva Avatari Krishna Swayam Bhagavan Tahara Dvitiya Deha Shri Balaram. So in this shloka, Kaviraj Goswami is saying, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna is the fountainhead of all incarnations. Lord Balaram is his second body. In the purport, Prabhupada writes, Lord Sri Krishna, the absolute personality of Godhead, is the primeval Lord, the original form of Godhead, and his first expansion is Sri Balaram. The personality of Godhead can expand himself in innumerable forms. The forms that have unlimited potency are called Swamsha. And the forms that have limited potencies, the living entities are called Vibhinnamsha. So when the Lord expands himself as Lord Balaram has all the potencies that Lord Krishna has. But we'll come to the two differences in a minute. The next shloka. Eka Iswarupa Dhoe Bhinna Matra Kaya Adya Kaya Vyuha Krishna Leela Rasahaya. So Kaviraj Goswami is saying, these two are one and the same identity. They differ only in form. Lord Balaram is the first bodily expansion of Krishna, and he assists in Lord Krishna's transcendental pastimes. Prabhupada writes, Balaram is a Swamsha expansion of the Lord, and therefore there is no difference in potency between Krishna and Balaram. The only difference is their bodily structure. There is one more difference. The bodily structure difference is that Krishna is always bluish black, dark in color. Lord Balaram, the first expansion of Krishna, is the exact opposite. He is white in color. As the first expansion of Godhead, Balaram is the chief deity among the first quadruple forms. And he is the foremost assistant of Sri Krishna in his transcendental activities. So the first personal assistant of Lord Krishna is his own expansion as Lord Balaram. The next shloka, 6th shloka. Sei Krishna Navadvipe Sri Chaitanya Chandra Sei Balarama Sange Sri Nityananda. That original Lord Krishna appeared in Navadvipa as Lord Chaitanya, and Balaram appeared with him as Lord Nityananda. We'll go couple more shlokas. Sankarshana Karana Toya Sai Garbhodashai Cha Payobdhi Sai Sheshaschayasyam Shakala Sanitya Nandhakya Rama Sharanam Mamastu. So here Kaviraj Goswami is saying, may Sri Nityananda Ram be the object of my constant remembrance. Sankarshana, Sheshanaga, and the Vishnus who lie on the Karana ocean, Garbha ocean, and the ocean of milk are his plenary portions and the portions of his plenary portions. So that means all of these expansions, including the oceans, etc., are all expansions of Lord Balaram. Why is Kaviraj Goswami saying, let me always remember this Nityananda Balaram. Sri Swarup Damodar Goswami has recorded this verse in his diary to offer his respectful obeisances to Lord Nityananda Prabhu. This verse also appears as the 7th of the first 14 verses of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. The other difference between Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram is the mood. So the first difference was the color. One is black, the other one is white. The other difference is that Lord Krishna accepts service, Lord Balaram offers service. You could say in a master-servant relationship. You could say that Lord Krishna is the master and Lord Balaram is the servant. So Krishna is known as the Sevya Bhagavan and Balaram is known as the Sevak Bhagavan. One who is meant to be worshipped and one who offers worship. So Krishna is meant to be worshipped and Lord Balaram offers his worship to Krishna. Although they are one and the same, it's just the colors are different and the mood is different. One is worshipped, one actually offers worship. Worship in the form of service. And therefore, Lord Balaram is called the Adi Guru because he's demonstrating to us the mood in which we should serve the Supreme Lord. So you can see through just this brief reading how much Balaram expands himself unlimitedly simply to please the Supreme Lord. So he becomes the padukas of the Lord, he becomes the umbrella of the Lord, he becomes the vastra of the Lord, he becomes the dham for the Lord. Whatever he needs to do to assist the Lord in his pastimes, Balaram is ready to do, is ready to offer that service. Shri Balarama Goshani Mula Sankarshana Pancharupa Dhari Karena Krishnera Sevana. So Lord Balaram is the original Sankarshana. He assumes 5 other forms to serve Lord Krishna. So now we're going to read what are those 5 forms. Apane karena Krishna lila rasahaya Shrishti lila karya kare dhari chari kaya. He himself helps in the pastimes of Lord Krishna and he does the work of creation in 4 other forms. That's the Chaturvyuha, which means Balaram does everything for Lord Krishna. Shrishti adika seva tanra agnyara palana shesha rupe kare krishnera vividha sevana. He executes the order of Lord Krishna in the work of creation and in the form of Lord Shesha. He serves Krishna in various ways. So here is now a description of the 5 ways in which Lord Balaram is serving Lord Krishna. Prabhupada writes, according to expert opinion, Balaram, as the chief of the original quadruple forms, is also the original Sankarshana. Balaram, the first expansion of Krishna, expands himself in 5 forms. Mahasankarshana, Karanabdhishayi, Garbhodakashayi, Kshirodakashayi, and Shesha. So Balaram expands himself as Mahasankarshan and essentially the 3 other Vishnus, Karanabdhishayi, Garbhodakashayi, and Kshirodakashayi, and then Shesha. These 5 plenary portions are responsible for both the spiritual and material cosmic manifestations. In these 5 forms, Lord Balaram assists Lord Krishna in his activities. The first 4 of these forms are responsible for the cosmic manifestations, which is Mahasankarshan, Karnodakshay Vishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, Kshirodakshay Vishnu. Whereas Shesha is responsible for personal service to the Lord. Shesha is called Ananta or unlimited because he assists the personality of Godhead in his unlimited expansions by performing an unlimited variety of services. Sri Balaram is the servitor Godhead who serves Lord Krishna in all affairs of existence and knowledge. Lord Nityananda Prabhu, who is the same servitor Godhead Balarama, performs the same service to Lord Gauranga by constant association. Now that we have tried to understand who is Lord Balaram, we can go into the pastimes of the Lord. So as we know, Lord Balaram appears first in the womb of Devaki. And our acharyas say, because anytime the Lord makes his appearance, some preparations have to be made ahead of time. So the demigods and their wives have already been instructed to come, take birth in the Yadu family and to assist the Lord in his pastime. But in order for the womb to receive Lord Krishna, Lord Balaram first occupies the womb to clean it up, to purify it. Otherwise, there's no difference between Balaram and Lord Krishna. The difference is in their mood, in their color. Lord Krishna is always accepting service. Lord Balaram is always offering service. So if you're offering service, for your master, you will do anything. So Lord Balaram is the source of the entire spiritual world and is considered the Adi Guru, the original spiritual master. And as we just read in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he assumes the 5 different forms to serve Lord Krishna. So he personally helps the Lord in his pastimes in the form of Shesha. And then as Mahashankarshan and the Chaturvyuha forms, you could say Vasudev, Shankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, all of the spiritual manifestations and material manifestations are taken care of. So he executes the orders of Lord Krishna. And as Lord Shesha, he serves Krishna personally in various ways. What does Lord Balaram get out of serving Lord Krishna? Transcendental bliss. And our acharyas say, to approach Lord Krishna, you cannot approach Lord Krishna without first getting the mercy of Lord Balaram. And Lord Balaram's representatives are the Gurus. No one can approach Krishna without first getting the mercy of Baladeva. So whenever the Lord appears, he comes with his associates, he comes with his paraphernalia. So when Lord Krishna appears in Dwapar Yuga, Baladeva or Balaram, Sankarshana, occupies the womb of Mother Devaki. So there is a very intimate relationship between Krishna and Balaram. So Balaram is the 7th child in the womb of Devaki. And it is said that Devaki understood that this was a divine child. And she was immediately concerned about his safety. Because we know Kamsa was looking for the sons to kill. And of course, Narada Muni comes and confuses Kamsa and says, actually, you don't know from where you're counting. Who is the 8th child? You don't know. So the minute Lord Balaram appears, Kamsa becomes even more fearful, thinking that he must have been tricked by the prophecy. Somehow or the other, he had a premonition that he was going to be slain by the eighth child of Devaki. At that time, Lord Krishna tells Yogamaya, instructs her. Yogamaya is Lord Krishna's energy potency. So there is a difference between Shakti and Shaktiman. So Lord Balaram is also Shaktiman. Lord Krishna is Shaktiman. The Chaturvyuhas are all Shaktiman. The Vishnu avatars are all Shaktiman. And then there is another category of Shakti. The Lord's internal potency, Krishna's internal potency is known as Yogamaya. So he instructs Yogamaya to transfer the unborn child from the womb of Devaki to that of Rohini, the other wife of Vasudeva, who was at that time taking shelter with Nanda Maharaj in Gokul. So Lord Balaram is transferred to the womb of Rohini from the womb of Devaki. And when the Kuluguru comes, the Kuluguru of Vasudeva, not Nanda Maharaj, he reveals to Mother Rohini that the child that she was carrying was that of her husband, Vasudeva. You have to remember there is no contact between Vasudeva and Rohini. How did the child suddenly come into the womb of Rohini? So at the time of the name-giving ceremony, Garga Muni gives the name Rama. The word Rama means someone who brings others great pleasure and someone who also gives pleasure to Krishna. And because he will have immense strength, Garga Muni said he will also be known as Balarama. Word Bala meaning strength. He also gets the name of Sankarshana, Garga Muni says, because he was attracted from the womb of Devaki to that of Rohini, bringing the two sides together. So as the son of Rohini, he was known as Rohini Nandana. And as the older brother of Krishna, he was also known as Dauji. So just as beautiful as Lord Krishna is, Lord Balaram is also exquisitely beautiful. His complexion is very fair. It is said that he is the color of crystal. And he is always dressed in blue garments with a garland of forest flowers around his neck. And his long hair is tied on the top of his head in a knot. It's called a top knot. So he's known to be very graceful, very strong, and his beauty is enhanced by all of the ornaments that he wears, like earrings. Balaram is always wearing a tilaka made from musk. He wears garlands of gunja berries, just like Lord Krishna does. And the Shastras say that Lord Balaram's voice is very grave, deep voice, serious voice. Anyway, he is so beautiful that he eclipses many, many millions of moons. If you could see millions of moons in the sky together simultaneously, he is more beautiful than that. So because he loves his brother so much, he never leaves Krishna's side, with a few exceptions. So he brings the Lord great pleasure by assisting him in his pastimes. So a few pastimes of Lord Balaram that is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam are his killing of various demons like Dhenukasura, This Dhenukasura is actually an ass who was occupying this forest called the Talavan, one of the 12 forests of Vrindavan. And out of fear of these demons, the young Gopas were afraid to enter the forest, although they really wanted the fruits that were there on the Tala trees. So Lord Balaram enters the forest and he shakes the fruit trees so that the fruits could fall on the ground and the Gopas could consume the fruits. But in that process, such a big noise is made that it wakes up Dhenuka. And Lord Balaram picks him up, whirls him around over his head and tosses him to the top of the tree. And like this, all of Dhenukasura and his associates are also killed. Then Lord Balaram kills another demon called Pralambasura. This Pralambasura, this particular pastime happens when Krishna, along with the Gopas and Balaram, are playing. And in that particular game that they're playing, it was agreed that the winner should carry, or rather, the winner should be carried on the shoulders of the loser. There was some wrestling match that was going on the two teams, and the losing team had to carry the winning team on their shoulders. Taking advantage of this particular game, this demon Pralambasura comes as a young cowherd boy, disguised. And Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram immediately know that this is a demon who has come in their midst. And therefore, this demon is on the losing side, and he has to carry Lord Balaram on his shoulder. So Lord Balaram becomes heavier and heavier and heavier until this Pralambasura is not able to bear his weight anymore. And then this demon comes into his original form, transforms himself from the Gopa, from a cowherd boy, into his demonic form. And Lord Balaram just uses his fist to split open the head of Pralambasura, causing him to give up his life. There is a very sweet pastime in Srimad Bhagavatam where Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram are walking side by side in the forest. And Lord Krishna is glorifying Lord Balaram. And he says, "My dear brother, look at how the trees are bending down to pay their obeisances to you." So the Lord glorifies the lotus feet of Balaram, saying that even the trees were bending to touch the lotus feet of Lord Balaram. That Lord Balaram is the object of devotion for all of the demigods. And at that time, Lord Krishna says that the trees were impersonalists in their previous lives. And because they got the darshan of Lord Balaram, they were now offering their prayers of devotion to Lord Balaram. And there is also description in Srimad Bhagavatam of how, although Lord Balaram is here to serve Krishna in so many different ways, sometimes Balaram would get tired of playing and he would lie down with his head on the lap of one of the cowherd boys. And Lord Krishna would personally massage his feet. So Lord Krishna would serve Balaram when Balaram was tired of playing. So such is the sweet reciprocation between Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram. There is also another pastime where Lord Balaram chastises Mother Yamuna. So Once, where they were actually, Krishna and Balaram were living in Dwaraka, and Lord Balaram comes back to visit Vrindavan for a few months, and he was enjoying his pastimes with his Gopa friends. Just to clarify, the Gopa friends and the Gopis who had personal association with Lord Balaram are different than the Gopas and Gopis who were having personal association with Krishna. So each of the lords had their own set of Gopa friends and Gopis. So like this, Lord Balaram was enjoying his pastimes on the banks of the river Yamuna, and he wanted the Yamuna to come close by. There's a place called Ramaghata in Vrindavan. You can see this place where the Lord actually plowed the field, plowed the banks to force Yamuna to come to him. So the Lord wanted to enjoy some pastimes with his Gopa friends in the river. And when he called for the river did not respond. Yamuna Devi did not respond. So Lord Balaram gets very angry, and he takes his plow and he begins to literally drag Yamuna Devi and split her up into hundreds of streams. And Yamuna Devi, understanding that this is not an ordinary personality, she comes and offers her obeisances, glorifies the Lord and begs for forgiveness. And then the Lord enters Yamuna river to have his pastimes with his Gopa friends. There's also a pastime where the Kauravas were chastised. Jambavati and Krishna had a son called Samba. This Samba kidnaps Lakshmana. Lakshmana is the daughter of Duryodhana. So not to be confused with the Ramavatar Lakshmana. So Duryodhana's daughter was called Lakshmana. Samba is the son of Jambavati and Lord Krishna. And Samba kidnaps the daughter of Duryodhana. So Kauravas are actually very furious. How did this happen? After a prolonged fight, they arrest Samba. And when the Yadavas heard that their Samba was arrested, they were ready to do battle. But it's at that time that Lord Balaram intervenes and pacifies both sides, coming up with a peaceful solution. When Balaram requests Duryodhana and the Kauravas to return Samba and Lakshmana so that they could reside as a married couple in Dwaraka, how do the Kauravas respond? They insult Lord Balaram. Not only insult Lord Balaram, they insult the Yadu dynasty. And to fix this false prestige, Lord Balaram again uses his plow to drag Hastinapur into the Ganges. This, of course, terrified the Kauravas, and they hastily surrendered to the lotus feet of Balaram, begging him for his mercy. And so, like this, they immediately returned Samba and Lakshmana, and a marriage ceremony was organized and participated in by both sides of them. Then there is a pastime of Lord Balaram marrying Revati. This is not from the Bhagavatam. So in the Satya Yuga, there was a king by the name Raivata, whose daughter was known as Revati. So unfortunately, the king Raivata was not able to find a suitable match for his daughter Revati. And he's so concerned that he goes to Brahma's planet and asks for intervention and help. What should I do? At that time, Lord Brahma says, you just wait for some time. Some time means you wait for another 2 yugas. That is some time. And Lord Brahma tells Raivata that when you go back, there will be this personality called Balaram, and she would be a perfect match for him. And at the same time, Lord Brahma tells Raivata, the milliseconds that you spent in my Brahmaloka, by the time you go back, although already 2 yugas are over, it will be Dwapar Yuga. Dwapar Yuga was actually going to end, actually. It was not the beginning of Dwapar Yuga. So Lord Brahma says, don't worry, when you go there, everything will change. Things will not be the same. But you take your daughter there, and you can marry her to Lord Balaram. So, so when King Raivata returns and he approaches Balaram to accept Revati as his wife, but since Revati belonged to a different yuga, she was much taller than Lord Lord Balaram. So what does Lord Balaram do to bring her down to equal size as him? Because he is now appearing in Dwapar Yuga. It is said in each yuga, the height of the Jivatmas, the human beings, was very different. So in the Satya Yuga, people were very, very tall. They lived very long lives. But as the yugas progress, the height, weight, strength, everything deteriorates, lifespan, everything deteriorates. So because this was Dwapar Yuga, Lord Balaram places his plow on her head, on Revati's head, until she shrinks to the size where she was acceptable as his wife. There is a temple in Vrindavan called Daoji Temple. Although it's not in Vrindavan proper, you have to travel quite a bit of a distance. In that Daoji temple, if you go, Lord Balaram is there and Revati is on the side as a separate deity. She is not right next to him. So this particular pastime is very fascinating, of how Lord Balaram right sizes Mother Revati. So as all of us know, Lord Balaram was equally affectionate to both the Pandavas and the Kauravas. And therefore, he accepted both Duryodhana and Bhima as his disciples in the art of mace war. So Lord Balaram used to appreciate the superior techniques of Duryodhana compared to the sheer raw strength of Bhima. Therefore, at the time of the Mahabharata, since both his students was on either side of the battle, he refused to take sides, and instead he goes on to an extended pilgrimage to all the holy places. Nevertheless, he was not happy that trickery was used by Bhima to kill Duryodhana. So what does Lord Krishna do? Krishna immediately comes to Balaram and appeases him and tells him, don't get upset. This is something that had to be done. Of course, in his travels, the Lord also kills Romaharshana. It is this Romaharshana's son, who is Suta Goswami, who recites or narrates the Bhagavatam to the sages in Naimisharanya. This son of Romaharshana, Suta Goswami, had actually heard the Bhagavatam when Parikshit Maharaj was hearing it in the assembly with Shukadev Goswami speaking it. So at the end of Dwapar Yuga, when the sages were assembled on the banks of the Naimisharanya, they were performing this 1000-year yajna because Kali Yuga had begun. And they had, for this, the Shaunaka Rishis, they had appointed their leader as Romaharshana. This Romaharshana was a disciple of Srila Vyasadeva. So both Romaharshana and Suta Goswami, both of them were present in the assembly where Shukadev Goswami was narrating the Bhagavatam to King Parikshit. So both father and son were there. So anyway, the father was nominated as the leader of that particular yajna. It just so happened that Lord Balaram was visiting, he was traveling on his Tirtha Yatra, and when the Lord came into the assembly of the yajna, Romaharshana did not get up to offer his obeisances to the Lord. As per Shastra, the head need not get up, save and except for the fact that he did not recognize that this was the Supreme Lord himself. So although Romaharshana was considered to be a top-notch Vedantist. He had not realized the teachings of the Vedas, and therefore Lord Balaram considered him. Although he was a very learned scholar, he did not understand the essence of the Vedanta. So Lord Balaram thought he was unqualified to lead the ceremony, and Lord Balaram, with just a blade of grass, kills him. The rest of the priests and the congregation there very politely objected to this killing. And Lord Balaram said, please forgive me, but I cannot bring back his life. But I will institute his son Suta as the leader of the assembly, and you can continue with the yajna. So, in summary, Lord Balaram exhibits service attitude to Krishna. And Lord Balaram's only mission is to please Krishna by rendering service to him. Whether it is in the creation of the material worlds, whether it is maintaining the spiritual world, or whether becoming the personal paraphernalia for the Supreme Lord. Lord Balaram is an eternal companion of Sri Krishna. So he comes as Lakshmana when Lord Ram is here. Then in Kali Yuga, he comes as Lord Nityananda Ram to assist Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with his pastimes. So he is considered the original spiritual master. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada says and Acharya say, anyone who desires to make spiritual progress must first get the mercy of Lord Balaram. So, Lord Balaram represents Guru Tattva. In our classes in the temple, we were talking about the importance of Guru pastime last Sunday. So, without Guru's mercy, you cannot reach Krishna. So, without spiritual master, you cannot reach Krishna. So, if you want Krishna, you have to go through Balaram. And spiritual masters represent the true representation of Balaram. Thus, when we follow the instructions of the spiritual master and we try to please him, then we can get the mercy of Lord Balaram to go to Lord Krishna. Shri Shri Balaram Ji Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.